You are in a power wheelchair every day, not just to move from room to room, but to live in your own home. When the chair works, it fades into the background. When it fails, everything becomes urgent. In your case, the chair is a 2016 model. It is 10 years old, and you are still in it not because it remains the right fit, but because Georgia has made replacement feel out of reach. If you have ever heard "out of pocket" used loosely, treat it as a real phrase with real consequences here. Over the past year, you have paid for 2 sets of replacement batteries. You have also paid out of pocket to replace the joystick assembly, the controller that translates your intent into motion. This is not maintenance in the abstract. This is money you had to find in order to keep moving safely. When you total the expenses, you are over $600 in repairs on a chair that should have been replaced years ago. More importantly, this is not money that can be postponed. A wheelchair does not wait while you catch up on bills. A joystick does not hold off until next month. The day you cannot drive your chair reliably is the day you lose independence, even if you still have a door to your home and a light switch within reach. And the reason you're still patching a 10-year-old chair is straightforward, even if the system around it is not. You do not have Medicaid. Without Medicaid, there is no clear standard path to a power wheelchair replacement. None. To understand why this matters, you have to understand how replacement is supposed to work when coverage exists. The process generally starts with an evaluation by a physical therapist or occupational therapist. They document your needs in a clinical way: your posture, how you transfer, how you hold your weight, and what positioning supports reduce risk and discomfort. Then, your doctor issues a prescription based on that documented need. From there, a durable medical equipment supplier submits the claim. Medicaid reviews it, and if approved, covers the chair. It is not instantaneous, and it is not effortless, but it is a path. There is a structure. There is a door you can approach with paperwork in hand and a legitimate chance of a result. In your situation, that door does not open. Georgia's actions have effectively removed the coverage that makes the replacement process possible. The private insurance market does not handle power wheelchair replacement the same way, especially for complex needs. Medicare comes with its own requirements and limitations. Without a Medicaid waiver or a Medicaid-covered durable medical equipment benefit, you are left to carry the full cost yourself. That is the part many people miss. Replacement is not merely the purchase of a device. It is the purchase of a correct match between a person and a tool designed for health, positioning, and safety. When replacement is delayed, the mismatch accumulates. A 10-year-old power wheelchair is not like an old car that might still run fine. A power wheelchair is medical equipment calibrated to your body and your daily patterns. It relies on seating systems that support posture and pressure distribution. With time, the seating and cushioning compress and lose their ability to protect skin. The chair's armrests and footrests can drift out of the positioning range your body needs. The electronics age, batteries gradually lose capacity. Even when the chair continues to move, its performance can become less predictable and less aligned with your medical requirements. When you replaced your batteries, you restored more range. For a while, the chair felt functional again. But that improvement also highlights the underlying problem. You should not have been in a position where range anxiety becomes part of a normal day at home. You should not have been managing power availability as though your mobility depended on luck, when the real issue is that the system failed to provide timely replacement. Then there is the joystick, one component that deserves special attention because it sits at the center of your safety. When a joystick begins to go, you may not recognize it immediately. At first, it can feel like you are tired. You may assume your hand is off, your timing is off, or your control is simply inconsistent that day. You may even try to compensate, pressing differently, adjusting how you reach, hoping the chair responds normally again. But hardware problems do not improve because you are determined. Eventually, the failure becomes unmistakable. The chair lurches when it should go straight. It hesitates when you need immediate response. Inputs may register late or behave unpredictably. If you use your chair near curbs, tight turns, door thresholds, or any area where hazards exist, that is not an inconvenience. It is a safety issue. Imagine the quiet tension of approaching a doorway when you cannot fully trust the control. Imagine the feeling of standing at the edge of a decision. Do I risk going forward as is, or do I slow down and hope it responds correctly? This is the daily mental load that replaces the independence you rely on. You did not accept that uncertainty as fate. You tracked down a compatible replacement joystick assembly, ordered it yourself, and paid out of pocket. $600 and change, again found from limited resources, went into keeping the chair operational. And you know other people in the same situation. You have seen how coverage gaps translate into real failures, dead batteries, joysticks that keep working until they suddenly do not, equipment that becomes unsafe, not because the user is careless, but because the state refused to cover Medicaid. When the coverage problem is unresolved, the consequences do not appear in spreadsheets. They appear on bodies, in missed routines, and in the loss of control that no one can economize away. Georgia's political arguments often frame Medicaid expansion as an expense the state cannot afford. The language is careful: budget constraints, costs, limitations. But the argument depends on leaving out a crucial detail. When Medicaid expansion is funded under the federal matching structure, the federal government covers 90% of the cost for the expansion population. 90%. The state share, correspondingly, is about 10%. So when Georgia walks away from that 9-to-1 federal match, the decision is not just financial, it is ideological. And the price does not stay in a ledger. It travels directly into the lives of people who were supposed to receive medical equipment coverage as part of basic support for disability-related needs. You can sum up the contrast in a single stark line. While the political system debates cost and responsibility, you are buying joysticks out of a grocery budget. There is also something darker under the surface that deserves plain language. In Georgia's coverage gap, many people who fall just short of eligibility are poor. They are working but not earning enough to comfortably buy private coverage. They may miss Medicaid qualification due to thresholds and rules. Some may be caught in administrative systems that treat disability as a condition that can be managed by compliance rather than supported as a lifelong reality. In other words, the people impacted are not abstract. They are already at the bottom of the financial ladder. They are already stretched. When a state chooses not to expand coverage, it is not merely withholding a benefit. It is increasing the likelihood that disabled people will remain sick longer, remain unsafe longer, and remain trapped in equipment that cannot meet their current needs. Keeping people in failing equipment is not an accidental outcome. It becomes part of the practical reality of a system designed to deny, delay, and redirect costs back to individuals. You have been in this chair for years. You will likely remain reliant on mobility equipment for the rest of your life. That long-term dependency is why this issue is not a temporary inconvenience. It is a structural failure that keeps repeating until something changes, until coverage changes, rules change, or funding priorities change. So what is the minimum that should be expected? It should be straightforward. First, safety. A chair must operate reliably and predictably. A joystick must not become a last-minute crisis you solve by searching for parts and paying with money meant for essentials. Second, fit. Power wheelchair seating and positioning must match your current needs. A 10-year-old seating system does not preserve the same posture and pressure distribution it offered in earlier years. Over time, compression and degradation increase risk, including skin breakdown and pain. Third, functioning equipment. When the chair is working properly, you are not spending your day monitoring battery life, second-guessing control response, or managing discomfort that should have been addressed through timely replacement. That is not a luxury request. It is basic human dignity. It is the difference between a life lived with uncertainty and a life lived with support. If you are watching and you relate to this, if you are using old equipment, if you have paid for repairs that should have been covered, if you have navigated a system that seems designed to make you fail, then you are not alone. Your experience is not a personal shortcoming. It is a policy outcome showing up in real time. Rolling disaster exists for that reason, to put these stories into plain, understandable terms. Not as slogans, not as vague debates, as lived reality, as numbers that can be recognized. As a joystick assembly you ordered because it was the only way to keep your chair safe. As a repair total that came directly from your own pocket because a coverage door stayed locked. Because the only way this changes is if enough people see what is happening and decide they cannot look away.
If you are able, support the conversation.
Share this video with someone who thinks disability support is only a government topic or a complicated program. It is also a household budget. It is a safety decision. It is whether someone can cross a hallway without fear. It is whether a person has to pay $600 and more to keep equipment running because Medicaid replacement was refused. Subscribe to Rolling Disaster and keep watching, not to stop at sympathy, but to build momentum for action.